Was the night before Christmas. I was watching in your house. Hard Finkel was in the ring. A match he would announce. Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker. A match for I couldn't care. I wanted to see El Dandy. I'd hoped he would be there. When Jam Master didn't show up, I decided to go to bed, while visions of Alex Wright's entrance danced in my head. A man would come down my chimney, and with a little bit of luck, it would be the Road Dogg Jesse James, and I'd tell him to shut up. Merry Christmas everyone, happy holidays. If you're celebrating the festive season or not, it really doesn't matter. You're all very welcome to the Wrestling Bio's Christmas Bonanza. You may have been expecting the Reliving the Warspring Stampede review tonight, but that video is coming out on Boxing Day instead. Having a pay-per-view named Spring Stampede on Christmas Eve is a bit odd, but I'm just remembering that WWF Unforgiven 98 went up on Christmas Day last year. It doesn't matter though, because this year we're getting all festive by looking at Santa with muscles. That's right, Hulk Hogan's greatest achievement. We'll cut away every now and then and talk about some festive frolics from the world of professional wrestling. So it's not just a movie review, there's all sorts of Christmas treats waiting for you inside today's video. Let me tell you something, Mean Gene. This is legitimately the first time I've ever watched this movie. I've heard of the movie, of course, just like every wrestling fan, and I've seen clips of it here and there, but I know nothing about the plot at all. Am I excited to watch the movie? Yeah, of course I am. I know Hulk Hogan's going to be our Santa tonight, so I can't wait. This is going to be amazing.
Dear Santa, how are you? I'm not doing so well.
A little girl narrates the opening of our festive movie. She says some dude called Mr. Frost has been a real bastard to the people of Lakeville and everyone's moving away. Mr. Frost might even take the children's orphanage away where this little girl currently resides. So she writes a letter to Santa hoping old Saint Nick will come to town early this year and beat the ever-loving shit out of this Mr. Frost dude. We then cut over to old Wood from the Hood looking very conspicuous indeed. He's got hair on the top of his head, guys. He's totally nerfed his trademark mustache. And for those wondering, this movie was released in 1996 when the NWO was in full swing. Hollywood Hulk beats up some random machete-wielding bozo and he says NWO for life afterwards. He then tries to steal a little gold box that contains a lucrative wrestling contract with creative control and loads of merch money. But here comes Chef Boyardee to stop Hogan from signing. Next we have an absolute head case who marks out big time for the Hulkster. And now it's time for the chauffeur to do the J.O.B. Hogan's kicking all sorts of ass. He's not going to sell a single move as people join in on the fight, but it turns out this was nothing more than a practice run for Hulk. All these idiots work for Hogan and he just wanted to show how quick he could whip everyone's ass. Not happy with how long it took to beat everyone up, Hulk, who's called Blake Thorne in this movie by the way, decides to get some of his performance enhancers. These bad boys will make Hogan extra strong for his next little practice run. The chest chiseler, the mass maker, the bulk builder, the cock increaser, it's all here. We quickly learned that Hogan's a very wealthy man. He has all these goons working for him in his big mansion. He has lots of rules that his staff must abide by, such as rule number 386, never mix business with pleasure, rule number 105, never give an inch when you can take one, and rule number 46, don't ever lose a world championship clean, brother. Chaz the Butler tells Hollywood that a non-profit organisation wants to hold a fundraiser at Hulk's mansion, and Hogan doesn't want to do it. He suggests sending them some roids instead before going off to play paintball. Some of you out there might not care for Christmas all that much, and that's fine. As long as people leave you alone to be a miserable bastard on Christmas Day, then it's all good. How many of you out there are kind of forced to enjoy Christmas though? How many of you put on a smile and pretend to have a good time when the family members come pouring in? Well, imagine your boss forcing you to have a Merry Christmas. Imagine the boss sending Big Daddy Cool Diesel into the office and forcing you to sing We Wish You a Merry Christmas. That's exactly what happened on the Christmas Eve episode of Superstars back in 1994. New WWF champion Diesel threatened to powerbomb every one of these office workers if they didn't join in on the festivities. Joy to the world. Hogan meets up with the NWO outside his mansion and they go out for some paintball and fun. Hogan cheats as usual to get the upper hand, the dirty no good son of a gun, and Hogan jumps in his Jeep while his enemies hop on their motorbikes for a good old fashioned chase. This cop right here, let's call him Tackleberry, isn't too happy with this high octane action and he begins chasing down Hogan and his paintballing friends. Some friendly fire in the Hogan vehicle leads to the Hulkster getting shot, and this is just typical, isn't it? It's the classic Hulk didn't win but he didn't lose either mentality that he's so well known for. The whole police force is now chasing Hulk and his buddies as the crew head into Lakeville. This cop really doesn't like Santa, and for no reason at all, he blows Santa's eyeballs out with his shotgun. Lovely. And we then cut over to the Lakeville Mall where a lot of kids are waiting to see the man himself, Big Kris Kringle. Santa's off taking a shit or he's rolling a joint in the back or something. So the line to see Santa's getting out of hand while Santa's elves are too busy gambling their candy canes while playing Texas Hold'em. This elf right here seems to be in a bit of trouble. He owes someone money, and the owner of the mall says she'll pay $50 to the first elf who can find Santa. Our main man thinks this is the answer to all his problems. He tells some dorky scientist he'll call him right back, and this is where we get introduced to the villains of our festive movie. This haircut-needing doctor of debauchery, let's call him Dr. Dick Breath, tells this unfortunate soul right here that Mr. Frost is going to speak to him in just a moment. And Mr. Frost talks to the helpless guy through a CRTV that has no power cord. Ebner Frost wants to buy this guy's shoe store. The guy says, oh hell no. So Mr. Frost introduces the shoe store owner to three scientists. On the right we have Walmart Indiana Jones, we have Audrey Hepatitis in the middle, and to the left we have Stone Cold Kevin Dunn. Indiana Jones wants to turn shoe store guy into a fossil, Kevin Dunn sprays a fart in shoe store guy's face, and Audrey Hepatitis wants to electrocute shoe store guy with her electro gloves. What a trio of absolute bastards. Meanwhile, Hogan's entered the mall. He wants to hide away from the cops, so he finds a Santa outfit and he gets changed in his own private locker room. He emerges moments later and there he is, the one and only Santa Claus who would not come down your chimney because that doesn't work for him, brother. He bumps into the cops and Tackleberry's completely oblivious. I mean, how can he not tell this is Hulk Hogan? Come on. A little kid then bumps into Santa with his wish list. On top of his list, he wants Hogan to drop the world title to Roddy Piper at Starrcade, and Hulk's like, haha, no way, Jose. But then the cops notice Hogan's little butt wipe hanging out of his ass, and the Hulkster gets chased. While hiding in a garbage chute, Hogan takes a bump and he ends up falling 500 feet to the hard concrete floor. It's one of the funniest falls I've ever seen in my life, by the way, and I love the use of the Santa dummy. But thank God, Hogan doesn't die from this horrific accident. He does bump his head though. Hogan has a concussion, he's got a bad case of CTE, but the debt-riddled elf from earlier on doesn't care. He just found his Santa and he also found Santa's wallet. Lenny the elf steals Hogan's money and his NWO membership card. When the elf realizes this is the ultra-rich Blake Thorne, he can't believe his luck, but Hogan then wakes up and he has no idea where he is or what he was doing. The elf convinces Hogan that he's Santa. He has to spread some holiday cheer by going out there and seeing all those children who've been waiting all day long. And while Hogan isn't totally convinced, he still decides to go along with it. He's dazed, he's confused, but by God, brother, he's going to give the people what they want. Santa Mania is running wild. Santa also suffered from amnesia after Alberto Del Rio almost murdered him. It was Christmas Eve 2012 and Santa stopped by on an episode of Raw to spread some holiday cheer. Mick Foley played the role of Santa, and that no good Alberto Del Rio hit Santa with his car because if there's one thing Alberto Del Rio doesn't like, it's Christmas. Christmas and women. The locker room was very angry at Del Rio, with John Cena in particular being extremely traumatized. And apparently Santa said while getting wheeled out to the medical room that he wants Alberto Del Rio to compete in a Miracle on 34th Street fight. Santa Claus is quite the booker, isn't he? The match was filled with festive fuckery as John Cena took on Del Rio in the Raw main event. We had presents, Christmas trees, even a bowling ball got utilised as John Cena defended the honour of Father Christmas. In the end, Santa returned to put the mandible claw on Del Rio, and John Cena won with an attitude adjustment. It was an episode of Raw that got ripped apart by fans because apparently wrestling can't be fun nor silly, but I'm just glad Santa was okay and the big man was able to deliver presents later that night. Just going to open up a Christmas beer here. I think I'm going to need it for this. So, what's happening here? Santa Hogan ends up sitting outside his grotto at the mall while Lenny the Elf collects his $50 from the mall owner. It's all worked out brilliantly for Lenny, it seems. Hogan seems absolutely terrified by these children, and yes, there is an easy joke to be made here, but let's not go there. Hogan deals with happy kids, confused kids, kids who want to beat the crap out of each other, but he's slowly getting into the character, and by God, he's turning babyface. Lenny's having some problems using Hogan's credit cards, so he decides to call it quits for now, and we then cut over to two dirty old rotten stinking hyenas who try to steal money that was raised for the orphanage. They end up dropping the cash in the middle of the mall, a little girl squeals for Santa to come help, and here we go, Hollywood Hogan versus two jobbers. Hogan no-sells a few punches before replying with a punch of his own. The other jobber gets thrown over the top rope in spectacular fashion before Hogan slams the other guy into some presents. After blocking a few punches, Hogan performs a press slam as Lenny the Elf watches on, and our match ends with one of the jobbers getting thrown through the door of Santa's grotto. Good stuff right here, and a return to form from Hulk Hogan. This has been a great episode of Monday Nitro this week. Lenny the Elf super impressed by Hulk Hogan, but Hogan's more concerned about the orphanage. Good guy Hulk wants to help out and he wants to visit the orphanage right this minute, so Lenny the Elf steals a scooter and the boys head off to save the children. Imagine if Hogan really did suffer from amnesia and he was made into a good guy. That would have been one way to wrap up the NWO storyline, I guess. Back at the Frost Mansion, or lab, or whatever the fuck it is, we learn that Shoe Store Guy is now going to sell his shop. We also learn that Mr. Frost and Dr. Dickbreath only need to take over the orphanage now and they'll dominate all of Lakeville with an iron fist or something, I don't know. But little do these bozos know that Hulk Hogan's now fighting for the rights of every man, or orphan as the case may be. Dickbreath, Indiana Jones, Kevin Dunn and Audrey Hepatitis pull up to the orphanage in an ice cream truck. The orphanage owner, Leslie, tells these horrible people to leave her and the children alone, and so the villains decide that a little property damage is the best course of action here. Hulk Hogan sees all this go down. One of the guys who we guess volunteers at the orphanage stands in the middle of the road and he waves his arms around like a lunatic while the ice cream truck hits a nice and steady 90 miles per hour. And oh my God, Santa with muscles indeed. Look at that, fucking hell. Hollywood Hogan of the New World Order is using his sheer might to stop that ice cream truck in its tracks. I am so impressed. The four horsemen laugh at Santa before driving off. Lenny pulls this face right here while giving a thumbs up. And the little girl who wrote the letter to Santa at the beginning of the movie, Elizabeth, she's all like, I told you Santa would come. Leslie, who we will now refer to as Ed Leslie, invites Santa in for some dinner. Elizabeth still thinks Santa's real, while Sarah here is a total non-believer. Taylor, meanwhile, doesn't feel like talking. He's going through his Nirvana stage, I think. Clayton here says what Santa just did was a very stupid thing. And I don't know, mate. I mean, you were the one standing in the middle of the fucking road a moment ago. Hogan says he's not sure why he paid this place a visit, but he felt like he needed to be here, just like a WrestleMania main event. And after learning that Mr. Frost wants to buy the orphanage so he can be the biggest, baddest villain of all time or something, Hogan gets fed some cookies and milk from young Elizabeth. Hulk knows somehow that this stuff isn't good for him, but Lenny forces Hogan to eat his cookies, drink his milk, and shut his stupid mouth. At In Your House 5, Savio Vega was in the Christmas spirit as he and Father Christmas handed out presents to fans in attendance. Ted DiBiase not only wanted to prove that everyone's got a price, including Savio Vega, but he also wanted to destroy the magic of Christmas by telling everyone that Santa wasn't real. Savio took offense to this. Not only did Savio Vega say he can't be bought, but Savio said he believed in Santa Claus. I mean, come on, he's right there giving out presents. Turns out that isn't the real Santa though, that's Santa Claus. And this imposter Santa of the $1 Million Corporation goes on to attack Savio in the middle of the ring, completely ruining Christmas for every WWF fan watching In Your House 5. You'll want to check in with OSW Review on New Year's Eve though. The boys are going to cover the entire In Your House event from start to finish. The hog pen match, Mabel vs Undertaker, Brett vs Bulldog with 1,000,000 chinlocks from Davey Boy Smith. It's going to be so good. Merry Christmas to JV1 and OOC of OSW Review. Hogan, Lenny the Elf, Ed Leslie, Crazy Clayton and the kids sit down for some dinner. Elizabeth wants to keep Santa and Ed Leslie says he's not a dog. I'm not so sure about that. Young Taylor gets the huff and he leaves the table. He's a little upset about his current living situation. I mean, yeah, it could be better. But Hogan's got himself a place to sleep tonight and that's all that matters to Hollywood. He's all filled with Christmas cheer. Lenny and Hulk get their sweet pajamas on. Hulk still can't work out exactly who he is. He and Lenny go for a nap and Hollywood's just so happy that little Elizabeth looks up to him so much. He really likes being Santa Claus. The next morning, Santa forgets to wear his beard and Elizabeth's like, holy shit, that's Hollywood Hogan. But Hogan avoids disaster by saying the beard tickles Mrs. Claus and he only wears it for deliveries. Exactly what is Santa doing to Mrs. Claus that gives her the tickles, eh? Santa made the front page of the newspaper, he's quite the celebrity. And Lenny almost poops his pants when he notices the box of Hulk Hogan's performance enhancing cereal sitting at the kitchen table. He does a terrible job of trying to hide the box, but then he gets an excellent idea. He can steal Hogan's thumbprint from that glass of milk right there and he can then use Hogan's stolen credit cards. Lenny gets the glass. Elizabeth thinks Santa should get his ass out of the house and do some Christmas jobs. Hogan's like, I don't do jobs, kid. Check it out though, Sarah's only gone and Hulkified Santa's outfit. And oh no, some news reporters want to get an interview with Santa. Hulk goes out to cut a promo for the people at home, but he can't answer any questions. He still doesn't know who he really is and the promo quickly goes to shit. And a few people didn't rate this promo very highly, including Mr. Frost and Dr. Dick Breath. Frosty Boy thinks this guy looks really familiar and yeah, it's Hulk Hogan, man. Everyone knows who Hulk Hogan is. Lenny, meanwhile, tries to use Hulk's thumbprints in an effort to rob the Hulkster blind, but not only does he have the wrong thumbprint, he also bumps into Kevin Dunn and Dick Breath. The Fantastic Four throw Lenny into their ice cream van of torture, and Lenny then has a quick conversation with Mr. Frost through the power of television. Frost isn't happy that support's being drummed up for the orphanage. He wants Santa with muscles out of the picture, so Lenny tells Hogan it's time to go, the charade's up. Hulk says he's needed here at the orphanage. He's such a ratings draw and this place needs a boost every Monday night. So Hogan's gonna hang around and remain babyface for another little while yet. Hogan meets Elizabeth in the orphanage church. Elizabeth wonders if Santa has a mummy and daddy and Hogan says he can't remember. Poor little Elizabeth can't remember her mum and dad either. Hogan and Elizabeth then sing a song. It's very weird and the sultry sounds of Hulk Hogan make one of the mirrors brighten up with holiday magic or some shit. But back in the living room, someone makes sure that this window right here gets absolutely no holiday magic. The four horsemen are sending a message, serious horseman business. So Hulk tells Ed Leslie to keep the milk and cookies warm. It's time to make these losers job out. Hulk approaches Dr. DB. The doctor of thugonomics tells Hulk to go back to the North Pole before kicking Hollywood's ass, but Hulkster pulls out the comeback of the century and both Dick Breath and Kevin Dunn get taken out. I love this shot here of Dick Breath's dictaphone getting shoved in and out of his mouth, and it's especially hilarious when played back and forth. The heels get sent packing and young Taylor here is not impressed. He went online and talked shit about this match while saying the crowd wasn't even all that hot for it. And then Taylor decides to run away from the orphanage because he just doesn't like this Hollywood Hogan guy all that much. Hogan spots Taylor's Walkman on the ground. He can hear Smells Like Teen Spirit, so it's definitely Taylor's. Hulk comes to the conclusion that Taylor must be going to Mr. Frost's mansion to cause some havoc. And so we've got ourselves a good old-fashioned Christmas rescue mission. Hogan and Lenny infiltrate the Frost mansion. The Hulkster just throws Lenny over the fence because the pudgy little shit was too lazy to climb it. Taylor's just about to break a few windows, but he's stopped by Hollywood and Hulk's all like, 2 wrongs don't make a right and all that nonsense. The cliches continue when Hulk says he's only tough when he has to be. Things then look a little suspicious in Frost headquarters. Hogan tells Lenny and Taylor to beat it while the Hulkster investigates. And Hogan overhears Frost tell Dick Breath he needs to begin excavation at the orphanage immediately. There's something underneath the orphanage that Mr. Frost wants. Hogan goes back and he asks Crazy Clayton and Ed Leslie what's hiding underneath this place, and it turns out there's some catacombs underneath the church that the kids use as a clubhouse. Sorry, but that sounds super dodgy, and I'd close that orphanage down too if I had a chance. Yeah, come on in, this is where the children sleep, here's where we have dinner, and oh, here's the underground cave where the children play completely unsupervised with Crazy Clayton. Hilariously, there's also a giant vault down in these underground caves that no one's ever bothered to open. So Hogan and the NWO Wolfpack head downstairs, and there it is, a giant vault that's got some initials scraped in it, leading Hogan to think there's some big titties behind that door. The kids know the first few numbers of the vault, 8, 24 and 16. Hogan, being the genius he is, guesses the final number, and what do you know, he got it right. How did he do that? The Goof Troop head further into the Cave of Wonders, and my god, it's, I'm not sure. It's filled with quartz crystals with electricity in them, according to smartass Sarah here. These are worth big bucks, and look, they're also super explosive. Top-notch special effects right there, by the way. The budget on this must have been immense. The gang then leave the vault all excited, but Hogan's not happy at all. He wonders how he knew that final number for the vault, and he wonders how the kids are going to get their presents tomorrow if indeed he is the real Santa Claus. Lenny the elf decides to tell Hulk the truth. He shows Hogan the clothes he was wearing underneath his Santa outfit when he found him, but Hulk still can't remember a goddamn thing. Lenny convinces Hogan that these little orphan Hulkamaniacs need him right now, Jesus Christ. But then Mr. Frost gives Lenny a call. Frost still wants elf balls to get rid of Hollywood Hogan, so it's time to get super serious. On the 2001 Christmas Eve episode of WWF Raw, Vince McMahon and Ric Flair threw their own separate parties backstage. The men and women of the WWF were invited to attend whichever party they wanted, and both parties turned into absolute chaos by the end of Raw. McMahon invited Santa's reindeer to join in on the fun, and I'm sure this was a real highlight for Mr. McMahon. Ric Flair, meanwhile, was paid a visit by Stone Cold Steve Austin. The rattlesnake got a chance to sit on Santa's lap and tell him all the things he wanted for Christmas. One of those things being another middle finger so he could flip more people off. The McMahon party went downhill fast when Mae Young took her clothes off and Steve Austin attacked the chairman. And Raw also featured a special Santa vs Santa match when Bubba Claus met Tajiri Claus inside the ring. A very fun episode of Raw here, and it looked like the superstars had a great time. That no good dirty dog, Dr. Dick Breath, is broke into the orphanage and he holds everyone hostage. Santa with muscles comes to the rescue and the two end up rushing through the church and up to the bell tower. Dick Breath realizes he has nowhere to go and nowhere to hide, so he grabs a giant candy cane and he looks to beat Hogan up with this highly illegal object. The two have a brawl and the match isn't half bad. Hogan even looks vulnerable at one point, but just when Dick Breath was about to get the victory, Hogan hulks up and DB gets knocked out. Hogan then jobs out the animatronic Santa decoration, another classic case of Hogan not winning but not really losing either. But fortunately for Hogan, he lands in a big old garbage truck where he sees a can of Hollywood Hogan's muscle building superroids for the unemployed. Looks like our hero's soon gonna come to his senses. Hogan then wakes up in his mansion and he has no idea what happened. The garbage truck driver recognized Hogan from WCW Nitro and he brought him back to the hood. But oh no, what about the kids? It is Christmas morning after all. Hogan picks up the phone to call Ed Leslie, but look, the phone's been hacked and the Four Horsemen are screwing around with the line. Hogan thinks Ed Leslie just told him to piss off, but it's just a recording made by Dr. Dick Breath. Mr. Frost says it's now time to take over the orphanage, game over bozos. And back at the orphanage, everyone's feeling down because Hulk Hogan left them high and dry. These little Hulkamaniacs, elves and do-gooders come to the conclusion that Santa went back to the North Pole, and things go from bad to worse when the horsemen bust the door down. The doctor's breath is extra dicky on Christmas Day, so Mr. Frost has to wear a hazmat suit. The crew go down into the catacombs where the kids learn they'll be mining Bitcoin for the rest of their lives, but there's just one problem: the kids don't know the final number to open the vault. Ed Leslie and Crazy Clayton learn that Lenny knows all about Mr. Frost and the kids think he's a traitor, and Walmart Indiana Jones says, "Don't worry my dude, I'll open this vault." Back at Hogan's mansion, the Hulkster doesn't feel like beating up any of his staff today. He gets a call from Lenny and he learns all about Frosty Ball's plan just before Dick Breath takes over the phone. Hogan gets warned if he shows up, Lenny the elf is a dead man, but that kind of warning doesn't scare Hollywood Hogan. Lenny gets tossed out of the orphanage by... hang on, is that the real Ed Leslie? It is, it's the booty man. Brutus the Barber Ed Leslie, Zodiac Bollocks himself. The man is a professional coattail rider. Hogan assembles a new faction consisting of his mansion staff. These boys are going to go and rescue the kids from Mr. Frost, but on their way to the orphanage they get chased by Tackleberry. So Hogan uses his performance enhancing products to keep the cop at bay, and it's just like a game of Mario Kart here, only we're using roids instead of banana skins. A few cop cars are waiting ahead for Hulk and the lads, and look at this guy right here. Super Cop here has a bazooka and he absolutely hates the NWO. But somehow on this great place we call planet Earth, he misses his target and he ends up blowing up the other cop car. How did you miss, mate? How the fuck did you miss? The squad arrive at the orphanage and they enter the place Home Alone style by setting a booby trap on the door handle. Top work, Hulk. Hogan then sees the kids being held in the kitchen and he, along with little Elizabeth, come up with a plan to take out the goon holding the children hostage. Elizabeth says Hollywood Hogan's better than the real Santa Claus, and Hulk's like, yeah, you better believe it, you little scamp. And the kids, along with Hulk Hogan, continue their mission to take out Mr. Frost and the Four Horsemen. Kevin Dunn's the next target. He gets completely bullied by these children and his hazmat suit gets filled up with his own stinking farts. He ends up jumping out the window because he can't handle the stench, and our team of crime fighters go on to find Audrey hepatitis. Unfortunately for Hogan, Audrey finds Hulk first, and if having to fight the most electrifying woman in sports entertainment wasn't bad enough, Hogan also has to fight Chinese Brutus Beefcake. Turns out Beefcake's no match for Hollywood Hogan, who would have thought it? And look at this is absolutely horrific. Lenny electrocutes Audrey and it's absolutely terrifying. It would give you nightmares, this movie. Lenny gives Hogan his wallet back. He stole the NWO membership card, but the money's still there, thankfully. And Hogan continues on his journey to rescue the orphanage from these dirty, evil scumbags. In 1997, not only did the NWO get their Christmas wish, they got the other wish they had since arriving in WCW. They took over WCW's flagship Monday Night Wrestling show and they renamed it NWO Nitro. Hulk Hogan, Mr. Santa with Muscles himself, was given a few gifts from his NWO teammates. The boys put their money together to buy Hulk a brand new motorcycle, and even though our guy here brought out the wrong bike at first, Old Wood from the Hood was delighted that the NWO lads would buy him such a beautiful present. A little later on, Hulk would receive another gift. This one wasn't from the NWO, it was from Hogan's arch nemesis Sting. Inside the box was Hollywood Hogan's very own severed head, and man, it's really hard to think of a better Christmas present for Hulk Hogan. I wonder if he keeps it on his mantle or if he puts it on top of his Christmas tree every year. The Stinger was coming after Hogan and the world title at Starrcade. Not sure if this was the best way to promote the big match, but it was still very memorable. A very Christmassy episode of Monday Nitro indeed. Santa with Muscles kicks down a door and inside he finds Ed Leslie and Crazy Clayton. Clayton says, "You could have knocked, you dopey son of a bitch." Hogan tells Ed Leslie he's not the real Santa, he's Hollywood Hogan from the NWO, and Ed Leslie's like, "Alright, I don't care, I gotta find these kids." Crazy Clayton then drops a bombshell on Hollywood. Turns out Hulk was called to this place because he was raised here as a young kid. That's right, Hogan must get his memory wiped out on a regular basis because he had absolutely no idea he grew up in this very orphanage along with Mr. Frost. Ooh. These two used to be best buddies, but Hollywood joined the NWO while Mr. Frost joined the bad evil team. Will this change the outcome of our final match? Probably not. Ed Leslie bumps into Dr. Dick Breath and it looks like the doc has the hots for Leslie. What a pig. The children sneak into the kitchen and they join forces to lock the doctor in a refrigerator. So that's the doctor locked up, hopefully for all eternity. Hogan sneaks down to the Cave of Wonders where he bumps into Frosty Balls. And while Mr. Frost does remember Hogan from his childhood, all he cares about right now is getting his hands on the Chaos Emeralds inside that cave or whatever the hell they are. Indiana Jones breaks into the vault, Hogan and Frosty go in while Lenny the Elf takes out Indy, and our final confrontation features Hollywood and Mr. Frost fighting it out while wielding some explosive crystals like a pair of clumsy Jedi Knights. Young Taylor interferes on Hogan's behalf with his trusty slingshot, and Hogan ends up winning the fight thanks to his handy creative control clause. That thing always comes in useful at times like these. This match sucks so hard that the cave itself starts shitting itself. The whole cave begins to shake at the mere sight of Hollywood versus Mr. Frost, so everyone gets out as fast as possible before the pay-per-view buy rate comes out and everyone gets fired. Hogan, the kids, Ed Leslie, Crazy Clayton, even the villains, everyone gets out and the orphanage screams in pain about how much the match absolutely sucked. It then explodes before it can complain online and give it a 1-star rating. So there you have it, Hulk Hogan did not save the orphanage and all he is a big fraudulent loser. The cops pull up to arrest Frosty Balls and the Four Horsemen. They get thrown into a police wagon where they have to put up with Kevin Dunn's rancid farts. And Hollywood Hogan decides to bring the kids, Clayton and Ed Leslie, to his mansion where they live happily ever after. Clayton gets a job mowing the lawn, Lenny the elf carries Hogan's bags at airports all across the world, Ed Leslie is the new window cleaner, and our movie ends with Hogan and the gang looking at Frosty and the Fantastic Four through a telescope. The villains are in the Cobb County Correctional Facility where they'll serve hard time. Little Elizabeth says she believes in Hulk Hogan, and Hulk says, "What you gonna do when Santa Claus runs wild on you?" He didn't really say that, but he should have. Whatever you get up to this Christmas, I hope you have a good one. If you're celebrating with friends and family, that's awesome. If you're on your own this Christmas, hey, that's fine too. Enjoy yourself, and if you're feeling a bit lonely, just pick up the phone and call a friend or family member. I guarantee they'll be happy to hear from you. As for me and the Wrestling Bios channel, you can expect the same kind of videos and content in the year 2024. The Raw vs Nitro series is still my main priority, and it will get seen through until the bitter end. I don't have any New Year's resolutions, but to keep doing what I'm doing and hopefully get better at it as I go along. Myself and my two awesome editors are going to continue busting our asses to make sure you guys always have something to watch 3 times a week. As long as you guys keep watching, Wrestling Bios will continue to make videos. So again, whatever you do this holiday season, I hope you have fun and I hope you enjoy yourself. Be awesome to each other, stay away from Santa with muscles, have a Merry Christmas folks and a Happy New Year.